Buongiorno and welcome to my We're Thinking podcast. I'm losing my voice. MWOT for short, hosted by me, Lee Greeno, here live from the Man Cave every week. Today I'm interviewing the brilliant actor Neale. We have a great conversation. It's interesting how we connected. I'm not going to tell you how we connected because that's in the actual interview. Remember, there's 4 main rules for the show. 1, no bullshit. 2, no judging. 3, no negativity. And 4, have fun, which you will listening to this episode. Right, let's stop gassing. Let's get into it. Listen to this. This is the brilliant Neale. Okay, so welcome to My Way of Thinking, and today I have a very special guest. It is the one and the only Mr. Neale. Welcome, Johnny. You all right?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, mate. How are you?
I'm good. Like I say, a bit all over the shop with the weather at the minute because 1 minute's cloudy, 1 minute's sunny, but apparently the weekend's going to be nice, ain't it?
Oh, we can only pray. I mean, I've got my COVID jab at the weekend, so I'm hoping that I can actually enjoy the weather rather than being laid up in the house.
Is that your first one?
That is my first one, yeah.
Well, I had mine a few weeks ago, and I did all the wrong things because I didn't realise I had my jab and I went straight to the pub. You're supposed to hang around for 15 minutes, not drive, not drink. So about 12 hours later, I'm lying in a bed, I'm shivering, and it wasn't nothing major. I was just shivering a little bit. You know when you do shiver and you ache.
Yeah, your body trying to adapt to it.
Yeah, but I just couldn't sleep. But no, I was happy to get it done, and especially if it helps us all. However that works. I mean, we're already started looking at holidays because the wife just said, "Look, we need to get away."
Tell me about it.
But then you've got to look at all the protocol. You know. So we looked at Portugal, but you've got to make sure you have tests and things like that. But if that's what we need to do,
I went to Bulgaria recently for a job, and that was like getting through the airport there's so much paperwork that they do not tell you about. No one tells you about it, and then you get there and they're like, "Have you got this?" No.
Yeah. I tell you what, I mean, that's the one thing I want to try and make, because we've got my little girl and my lad, we've got a family going, so we've got to make sure all the paperwork's, sound, because the last thing you want to be done is stuck over there. Well, I don't know, but yeah, it is a bit of a minefield. I think that's one thing. I mean, the government have done some good things, some bad things throughout, but I think they need to make it as clear as possible when you're going away. Because if you're a big family with kids, you know how stressful it is at the airport. The last thing.
It's stressful enough, just me and my missus.
With
kids, mate, I can't imagine.
My kids are a bit more grown up now, but when they were toddlers, it's just, you're looking at the board, you're going, "Are we called yet? Are we being called?" And the kids are running off, and shit. It's not like
put them on a leash,
And the thing is, as well, if you miss a plane, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's just a little.
You can't order another one.
No.
Anyway, yes, it's all going in the right direction. Now, we've got lots to talk about, and we'll talk about how we're connected, which is great. But first of all, I like to go through, I read the news every day, and you like to keep up to date, but it does annoy me, some of the stories, and you do think, same old shit. And it's very negative. So we always try and look for some funny stories, and I've spotted a couple today. Now, one interesting story for me is one that I read this morning, and this was about music. I'm a big music fan, like music. Sure you are, because you create, you're a creative. And this is talking about robot musicians, and it's saying there's this apparently AI robots will soon be bringing a golden age of music. Machines are said to be transforming the music industry from top to bottom. Tech expert Bernard Marr wrote in Forbes, "Progress in AI music is accelerating rapidly thanks to research and musicians at major tech conferences. Many artists feel we're about to enter a golden age of creativity powered by artificial intelligence." And the international bestseller said, they've been using algorithms to get over composer's block for 30 years. So they've been using this technology for a long time. Now, what's interesting from me, from a content and a filmmaker, is that content creators have been using machine-made music for years on backing tracks like YouTube and Instagram and stuff like that, because then you don't have to pay a royalty, you see. So I'm thinking, will it get to the point where we as a filmmaker, instead of, and I don't know if you're aware, but when you pay for a track, especially if it's a well-known track, it's thousands. If you want 30-second clip, it's that, and you have to write to Sony, and they just laugh and say, yeah, 30 grand, because we did that recently. I did it with my first feature. I wrote off to the actual artist. It was an old 70s song, and he said, you got to go through my lawyer, and they sent us to someone like,
unfortunately, a lot of the time they don't have much control over.
No, he didn't. He said that. Yeah, because he sold it. But they were talking
the thing that I've always liked about is Led Zeppelin have retained quite a lot of control over who uses their music, which is why you barely hear their music in movies. The two I can think of are like Pulp Fiction and Ragnarok.
Yeah. But it is quite an interesting time, because you listen to a lot of music now. I mean, I'm a big one for 80s, 70s, 90s, but you can see through the years there's a lot more composed computer sounds, isn't there, in music? And I think 100%. One day will we get rid of musicians?
Well, I think it's really interesting, isn't it? Because the whole process of creating music anyway is mathematical. Because it's all maths. I don't know masses about music, but I used to hang around with a lot of musicians, and they always used to tell me it's just maths. It's easy. And then they'd play like a ear-tearing solo, and you just be like, yeah, easy.
yeah. But it is, yeah. So
it makes sense that a computer would be able to understand it. I think the difference comes in when you have artistic interpretation. So if you listen to one artist perform a song and you listen to someone who's completely different, that's where I guess the humanity comes into it, and the real artistry. Whereas you can just program a robot to write you a little jingle. But if you want something with real feeling, that's something where it's going to take a little bit more programming to create an AI that can, really kind of capture that.
Yeah. And I was going to say that, I mean, we know, it says here, a Grammy-nominated producer, Alex Kidd, uses AI programs to generate his track, Not Easy, which reached number 4 in the iTunes. So he's obviously tried it and thought, it can be done. But I think there's something to be said for, like I say, when you hear live music from a musician, how are you going to be able to replicate that?
I mean, we all know what the Grammys are like anyway.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. But I think
not a real award.
No, but I think from a filmmaker's perspective, it does give us more options, because
totally.
You know what it's like with budgets. It's just a nightmare. And if you've got a budget and you need to spend a lot of it just on music, well, that's great if you're Hollywood. But for people like me that have zero, it's definitely all about what we can do 100%. Creatively.
Well, me and my friend started a YouTube channel recently, and for music, we've gone onto one of those subscription websites. Where you pay a subscription, and then you just have access to all these tracks. It's brilliant. But at the same time, you're sat there going I really wish I had a song that sounded like this song. Isn't this song, because that's expensive.
And I think when we did our film, we originally, when we filmed it, we put this iconic track in, and it sounded amazing. And it sounded amazing because it takes us back, and we remember when we used to hear it on the radio. So you have that, don't you? You have that feeling of remembering it, and I suppose that's a lot to do with it.
Yeah, 100%. Well, you hear, if you think about, I was talking about Pulp Fiction a minute ago, you hear the theme tune to that anywhere. First thing that jumps into your head is, Samuel L. Jackson and Tim Roth.
I'm just thinking of Lost for Life with Trainspotting at the start.
Oh yeah, or the Pixies from Fight Club. Every single time I'm just exploding buildings.
Oh, so good. Anyway, but so that was interesting. Right, now the second one, this is a bit more, this is a silly one, but it just made me out when I read this. A man howled with laughter after his elderly parents asked her to buy them more of the gorgeous pate, only to discover that what they'd been eating was cat food. Okay. Now, hold on. Angela Hollywell had been shopping for her mum, Margaret, and stepdad, Donald, because of the coronavirus, of course. And she usually separates the pet food from the rest of the shopping. But she didn't this time. And she thought, the daughter's shopping for her mum, and she thought, right, what I'll do is get the cat something different. Not these fancy gold cans, pate, you know the ones, yeah.
I know the ones, yeah.
Yeah. And she said, she said her mum Margaret showed her the tin, which they had finished off completely. I just can't believe it. My mum started laughing, then my sister laughing. She said her face was aghast when I told her, "What are you doing?" Her mum was absolutely astonished. And of course, it's gone straight in the paper. Picture of the cat laughing. She said it was lovely. Oh my God. I was like, oh, that's pretty.
I mean, if that's not something that if that's not a good review for the cat food, like, tested by humans.
I know, yeah. I know. I bet the cat was looking at us like, you bitch, get off my food.
You could rebrand it and just sell it as pate, you know?
Yeah. But that did make me smile, that one. But anyway, that's a couple of stories for this morning that made me think. So obviously, Johnny, you're an actor. What I'm always interested in when I speak to people, and I speak to people all over the world, different things, but when you're a creative, I'm always interested in where that spark come from, because with me, it was probably in my teenage years. Some people, it's as soon as they were 3 or 4 years old, they were dressing and acting. Some are later on. Tell us a little bit about growing up and where it came from, Johnny.
So I came to it really early, actually, is when I was, I've got that same mug. Sorry, I had to. Yeah, so when I was little, as I think, most kids in my generation were, your mum would sit you down in front of the TV, you put a VHS of I don't know, Robin Hood or Mary Poppins or something in, and that'd be your afternoon. And I loved it, and I'd just sing along and stuff like that. And she got sick of me jumping up and down on the sofa, so she found this local drama. It was drama, not a drama school, but an after school kind of drama program. And it's called Jackie Palmer's. They're quite well known for children's stuff.
All right.
And they had an agency attached as well. She was like, "Oh, do you want to maybe go to this and see what it's like?" And I was like, "Yeah, go for it." And started doing their acting classes, acrobatics classes, dance classes, all that kind of jazz. And really, really, really loved it. And they said, "Do you want to be on our agency?" So I said yes, and started getting professional work when I was 7 years old.
Young.
Yeah, man. I was working at the National Theatre with Ian McKellen when I was 7.
Wow. Cool.
Which was, no idea who he was at the time. Absolutely no idea. Parents were like, "Oh my God, that's amazing."
Oh, bless. He's doing a tour, actually. I don't know if you've seen. He's doing a tour where he goes around to different theatres talking. He's at the theatre by us, the Belgrade. I'm going to try and get tickets because I think that would be fascinating for him to talk about his career, wouldn't it?
Yeah, he's a lovely chap. I met him again a few years ago when I was doing a play at the Old King's Head, King's Head, in Angel. Yeah. And he came along to see that. And we got to chat with him afterwards and have a pint, and he was absolutely lovely bloke, really, really, very welcoming, very warm. But that got me started, and I was doing that until I was a teenager, and then I was a teenager. So. But you're slightly older, you don't really know what you're doing with your life, and so I concentrated on the academics, and then got to AS levels, and I was like, you know what, I'm bored of this. And we did our school Christmas play, and I was like, this is what I want to do. So I went and did a BTEC, went to uni, came out, and then spent a year training with the Impulse company.
Right.
In Meisner Technique.
Right.
And that was it, really.
Yeah. So there's never been any. So there's never been any doubt then, because I do speak to some people, and they might lose the love for it in their teenage years when they find, girls and booze and and stuff like that. Some people get more passionate and think, right, like you did, and think I'm just going to go for it. So it was never in question then.
I think it's one of those things where, like, we don't have an education system that's geared towards pushing you to be an artist and exploring that side of yourself. It's all very academic and all very, what are you going to do with the rest of your life and everything like that. And no one ever says, what would you like to do?
Yeah.
It's all, what are you capable of doing? It's essentially what they're asking.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was one of those things where it just sort of hung around in me, and I just kept wanting to do it. And there was nothing. There was a time during my teenage years where I would go through phases of wanting to be something. And it was usually because I'd seen it on a TV show.
Yeah.
And I realized, no, I don't want to be that thing. I want to play a character who's that thing. Because it's actually being that thing would be incredibly boring.
Yeah. That's the beauty, isn't it, of being able to do different characters. My son, when he was younger, I used to get him and doing him short films, and he was a great little actor, won a couple of awards, and he went the opposite way. As soon as he was in his teens. And like you say, school is a waste of time, where they're not a waste. Sometimes school's great, but it's a waste of time for a lot of performers or creatives, because back in my day, it was, you must have a stable job, give us a career that you can make something of it, which was quite difficult. I think it's a lot better now. But I think for him, it was sort of, I'm embarrassed performing. I don't really want to do it. And I'll let him go on his own way, which was great, which is what he wanted to do.
That's great as a parent that you were willing to do that, because there's a lot of, like, when I was growing up in it, there was a lot of parents who you could tell the kid wasn't as into it as the parents were.
Yeah. It happens a lot, doesn't it? Sport. I remember I took him football. He's a terrible footballer, but I gave him and he came away. I was like, I hate that. But you see parents there and you think their kids are hating this. They're forcing them to do it. And I think with kids, it's the worst thing you can do, because they'll buckle. They'll buckle eventually. It might be in their 20s, but they'll buckle and they'll just hate. They'll hate what you've got them into, the sport or whatever, the job or whatever, and they'll resent you as well, I think.
Oh, 100%. I think like what my parents did was really valuable. They allowed me to try things.
Oh, great.
And just see what I turn my hand to, really.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fine balance that you run. I'm not a parent, so I can't really speak from experience, but from seeing and having been a child, it's that fine balance of introducing them to things and pushing them enough to say, well, have you really given it a go? But not pushing them like to the extent where we're talking about actually you're causing them to resent everything about it.
Yeah, definitely. So where did you go from there? So did you say you went to uni or college?
I went to uni. Yeah, I went to Buxton Uni because couldn't afford drama school.
That's another thing. Yeah.
And after that, I did musical theatre there. And after that, went on, and I thought any kind of like institutional training, it kind of seems to just introduce you to various techniques.
Yeah.
And it's a good setup, but I needed something concrete as like a real, like, this is my technique. This is what I use.
Yeah.
And if I want to introduce other flavors into it, I can.
Yeah.
And Meisner technique just really, really spoke to me in that way.
So tell us a bit about that. Now, I did a bit of when I first got into filmmaking. I thought, I'll try acting. Dabbled a bit, did a few short films in there, and then I did some method acting training, and it blew me away. And I thought, I'm out of my depth here. I thought, hands up. I want people to perform, but I think I want to be more of a director and behind the camera. And it's actors are so brave, and it's such a. Just tell us about that technique, Johnny.
I mean, I think brave is a strong word, like soldiers and doctors are brave. Do you know what
well,
I mean?
yeah.
Actors, I think it was Laurence Olivier who put it best. What's an actor thinking when they go on stage? Look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me.
Yeah.
But I think the Meisner technique is very, it's similar in some ways because they're both based on Stanislavski's acting technique, but they deviate in their delivery of it and what they agree works within Stanislavski. So method, let's say, really values emotional memory. And that's like a big kind of core part of what it does. Whereas Meisner technique is more engaged with, I guess, if and circles of attention. And the big kind of premise of it is that I could go into the psychiatry of it deeply.
I can imagine.
Like there's so much psychiatry to it, but essentially the idea of it is that rather than putting the attention on yourself and pre-working out everything you're doing and judging yourself while you're performing, you're putting as much attention on the other person as possible and reacting to what they're doing. Which sounds obvious as.
It's all right. You can swear.
Okay, that's cool. It sounds really obvious, but in principle, but in actual delivery, it's a difficult thing to do. Because the second you start performing, the second you know there's a camera on you, there's an audience watching you, everything changes. And one of the big things that they talk about in Meisner is they break down a lot of the stuff that was built by Stanislavski. So, for instance, the fourth wall doesn't exist because there's never going to be a point, unless you have serious mental health issues, that you can convince yourself that that audience is not there. You're never going to convince yourself of that. So the idea instead is to understand that they're there, but they're not a part of your purview at present. This person in front of you who is crying or expressing their love for you or trying to stab you is in your purview. They are what holds your attention right now. And you are reacting to everything they're doing. None of what you do is based on what you want, essentially. It's what your character needs. It's to a certain extent what the script might be doing, but it's mostly just reactions to what they're giving you. And it's incredible because you create out of nowhere these insane, like, emotional and impassioned moments that from this flow and flit from 1 second to the next. You could be crying your heart out in one moment and then just absolutely giggling your ass off the next second. And it's all based around this one exercise that you do, and you start it when you first get in, and it's the whole foundation of the technique, which is repetition. And let's say you and I were to do it now. The starting basis of it would be that I notice something about you. And 9 times out of 10, when you begin, that is something very, very simple, like your eyes are blue. And then you would repeat back to me, your eyes are blue. And then we back, forth, back, forth. And stuff happens. Because eventually your eyes are blue means nothing. And what means everything is the fact that you're smiling or the fact that you're nodding your head. And then as you go on, you start addressing behavior, you start, and all that sort of thing.
So two questions I've got for you on that, Johnny. Is one, do you so the actor in front of you, do you get different levels? If the actor in front of you is awesome and amazing, not so, actors are different levels, let's be honest, then do you get a lot more from that? And also, how does it affect you in everyday life? So do you find that you communicate and interact with people better or worse because you're do you see what I mean?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So, for the first part of it, I would say the beauty of it is that it's always based on what they give you. So whether they're giving you a lot or whether they're giving you nothing, they're always giving you something.
Right.
Even if someone is literally just deadpan delivery, that's something. That's something that you can react to. And that might make you incredibly angry. That might make you so angry, depending on what your character needs from that person. I remember doing so there's the element of it where you do cold reading, where you're kind of you're holding the script up in front of you and you're grabbing words and you're just throwing them at the other person, essentially.
Yeah.
And the scene was the guy opposite me had broken up with me, my character, and I was like telling him how much he hurt me, and he was just very blasé, very cold. There was nothing there, but that was everything as well. And for the character that I was playing, it was everything, because I was crying, I was like furious, I was kicking him, like, you know, and so it's difficult. I would say that it's very easy to judge acting harshly, and the best way to judge it, I guess, isn't on believability. It's on how honest they're being in the moment, because there's a lot of actors that are judged to be very good, who a lot of the time it's attention-seeking behavior, if that makes sense. You know, being very loud and brash, when actually it's not. There's no call for it. It's just, this is how I've been taught. This is what I've been taught is good acting. You know, chewing the scenery up and everything.
I find some of the best actors are the ones that they're hardly saying anything, but you just know. They don't need to be exaggerate or say or act, because they're living it, they're feeling it, and you can. 100%. And when you feel, you have expressions, don't you? Your eyes move, your face moves. You don't have to overdo it.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Like, you can always. It's really harsh. I call it GCSE acting, but it's that acting where you're talking like this, and you know, your eyes are really bright.
That's what I was like. Yeah. I'm really happy today. Yeah, I'm really happy. Yeah.
But,
I know what you mean.
My favorite actors, one of my favorite actors at least, is Jonathan Pryce. If you watch his performances, the two popes.
That's
oh my god, it's such a good performance.
What a masterclass!
Game of Thrones and like anything else you want to mention that he's in, you know, even Pirates of the Caribbean, like I'd say he steals the show in his scenes.
Yeah.
Like,
and you could say he's always the same. He's always the same. You know, he's at that level.
That's it. He's not. It's one of those things where, like, it's how do you judge acting? And a big thing that we were taught as well is how to recognize objectivity. Yeah. And believability is objectivity. What people class as good acting is objectivity. You know, I might say this is what I think is good acting, but a method person might say something completely different, and that's based on how they were trained and what they think acting is. And at the end of the day, you know, what it all comes down to is, did the performance make you feel something?
Yeah, of course.
You know, and you know, a lot of people will say about, like, some actors, oh, they only play one thing, they only play one character. And it's like, well, how do you determine the character? You know, because as much as oh, that's embarrassing, can't remember his name, but
what was he in?
Fella from Leon, can't remember his name.
Oh, John Reno.
No, bad guy.
Oh, Gary Oldman.
Gary Oldman, thank you. As much as Gary Oldman plays completely different characters from here to there, that doesn't make him a better actor or a worse actor than, let's say, Jonathan Pryce, who doesn't go to the extremes that he does. They just have different processes. They have different things that they think are important at the time. Anthony Hopkins creates.
Oh, just what? Yeah. Have you watched The Father yet? You watched The Father yet?
I haven't yet. No, I haven't.
Wow, man.
But like, Olivia Colman doesn't do anything like too dramatic to her characters, but there is.
She's so.
I can't say that her Queen Anne is, you know, the same as who she plays in Peep Show.
Oh, it's so funny, isn't it? You'll see her in an episode of Peep Show from like 20 years ago, and you're like, wow,
she's so crazy, isn't it? It's so weird.
So good. Yeah, and so the second question is, you know, how has it affected you through life? Has it made you more? Do you understand people? Are you more empathetic? That's an interesting.
It's interesting because I think there is a certain level to you that is more empathetic to people, in that you really, when they're feeling something, you engage with it. I find I watch people's expressions more than anything else when they're talking. Like,
do you know if they're bullshitting you?
Yeah, like literally, like a lot of the time, yeah, because you'll like look at them and you're just kind of like you can, because of things you pick up, even if you don't know it. There's something subconscious that speaks to you when you look at those things, when you look at behavior.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how Meisner technique works anyway. Is it's all subconscious. You're not thinking about anything when you're actually doing it. But yeah, I'd say there is a certain level. I'd say any actor worth their salt is somewhat empathetic to other people, because you kind of have to be. You kind of have to be able to lift a character from a page and express them in reality. There has to be a certain level where you are able to just empathize with the weirdest, or the darkest kind of character.
Yeah, I mean, if you have to play someone that's a murderer or something like that, you have to empathize with that character to take it on, don't you?
Exactly. And I think that's another thing, is when you prejudge a character, you have to be able to understand where that character was coming from. Say you're playing Hitler. I don't think Hitler ever thought he was doing something bad.
No, of course he didn't.
He thought he was doing the right thing for his country, maybe the right thing for him.
Yeah.
But did he ever think? Did he? If anyone thought they were the bad guy, they would actually lose it.
Yeah. It's right. It's true. Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And I think that's key. And the other thing that interests me about some actors, some of the best actors, you talk about Ullman, De Niro as well, they're introverts. So in real life, they're quite standoffish. They like to stay out of the way of the drama. That's an interesting one, isn't it?
I think that's really interesting. Well, you get a huge mix anyway within the acting industry. Like myself, I'm sort of an extrovert introvert. I make up for the introversy by being overly extrovert.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting thing, because you do get that mix of people where you get these hugely talented actors who on screen are explosive and big characters, and then you meet them in real life and they're very quiet and subdued, and they could just literally be sat in the back of a pub and you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
I think it's a difference in how you class yourself as well. Do you class yourself as an artist, or do you class yourself as a celebrity? And I think the people who kind of class themselves under the celebrity banner tend to be a bit more kind of extrovert and look at me.
Yeah. And here's an interesting one for you. I've just thought, in the news recently, we had good old Martin Freeman. I always get mixed up with Morgan. He was slaughtering. Yeah, I know. He was slaughtering Jim Carrey, wasn't he, for his Andy Kaufman role in Man on the Moon? And I've seen the document, haven't you? But I've seen the documentary about this, and Jim Carrey is full on method.
Oh, the Jim and Andy one.
Yeah, all the time. And Martin Freeman sort of slagged him off a bit and said, well, you don't need to be like that. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, from a personal perspective, I agree with Martin Freeman. I wouldn't need to do that, because that's not how I do things.
Yeah.
If Jim Carrey felt that's what he needed to do, then fair enough. But I think what my acting teacher would say is that speaks a lot more to how much they listen to their inner critic than how much they believe in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Because Jim Carrey is an insanely talented human being, but he doesn't believe it, I don't think. I don't think he believes in actually how talented he is, because he's a very good actor. If you only have to watch, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind to realize that.
Yeah.
And very funny guy as well. And I think when you have to go to that extreme, it speaks more to how you don't believe in yourself. But he also talks about, on the documentary, about how he felt Andy Kaufman like inhabiting his body and things like that. So there's a lot of spiritual belief there as well, which is like intervening in that process. I think Nicolas Cage has a similar thing going on, where he does something called shamanistic
Yeah,
like
yeah.
acting or something, and he'll sew stones and stuff into his costume and stuff like this, and he says it gives him like power on screen.
Oh, I love Nicolas Cage. I remember when he did Leaving Las Vegas, and there's a scene where he throws the casino table up in the air, and he was like, "Look, this guy gets slaughtered, so I'm going to do a scene where I get slaughtered. I want to see what happens." He throws the table in the air, and I just love. He was so good in that. That was the best thing ever.
He's so good. He's one of those actors where you kind of wonder why isn't he doing that kind of stuff more often?
Yeah,
he is a good actor.
Because he spends so much money. That's what we talked about this before. Buying pyramids and Superman #1 comic, and he
bought a pyramid.
He bought a pyramid. He bought something to bury him. He bought an island. He bought you seen about the comic, didn't you? He bought Superman #1. He's just the money he has spent is ridiculous. And basically, he was going to go bankrupt. So now he just takes any job he can get hold of, which is usually a low rate DVD, which is a real. He does have nuggets. Really. Yeah, he does do nuggets, though. You do, like, Mandy was in that. I don't know if you've seen that yet. That was pretty crazy.
I don't know if I've seen that. Mandy.
Yeah, he's great in that.
I've watched so much through lockdown.
Yeah, but then he, like you say, then he takes what jobs he can. So, but
I think that's what you have to do as an actor, really.
He's a jobbing actor, but he's spent some money, that man, I tell you. He has spent some money.
Now, you know what? You're only here for 70, 80 years. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you can. I know. Hey, he's enjoyed it. He's enjoyed it. Now, so tell us about your first job. So whether it was on set or was it a theatre, your first job?
That's a good. Well, that was going back a number of years.
Was it?
So,
sort of not when you were sort of.
As an adult.
I'm thinking, as an adult, sort of your first sort of professional, maybe on set or theatre.
My first gig out of uni was a you know those like mazes where there's the actors and stuff like that in them.
Oh yeah,
pretending to be I was doing one of those. It was called 2.8 Hours Later, and it was like that sort of experience, but around the southeast of London.
Oh right, okay.
It was really interesting, and they cast me as a zombie in a pub essentially because I can do a metal scream. And the whole idea was that I'd jump out and scare the shit out of people.
Oh right, yeah.
That was a really fun weekend. But after that, I had a couple of adverts and things like that, and I did a feature film which unfortunately never went anywhere. That was a like found footage experimental kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where instead of doing a horror movie, they were doing like a coming of age film.
Oh right, okay.
It was a really interesting idea, and I made some good friends from it. Yeah. But yeah, no, I like the first few years of being an actor are probably the toughest.
Oh, it's so hard.
You're trying to figure out how the industry works. Do you know what I mean? Like.
It is such a difficult, isn't it? And I suppose as well, it's swamped with people wanting to get involved. That's the difficulty. When did you think I can make a living out of this, and this is something I can, for the rest of my life do, or was it something, or was it always I'll need another profession?
It was. I think it was the knowledge that I knew I needed something else that I was going to be able to like
a backup.
Anything, not even a backup. Just I knew I'd need another job, but I've never had what you would call a backup. Like I've never had another sort of thing I'm trained in that I'm like, okay, if everything falls apart, I can go do this.
Yeah.
Because I think if you have that, it's very easy to just go, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
So it's always, for me, it's always been a case of this is what I want to do and I'm going to make it happen, whether it means becoming a super famous Marvel actor or whether it just means that I'm able to pay the bills with the money that I make. Because at the end of the day, the thing that's important in acting isn't the money. It's the job. It's doing the job. Why, you can do any job and get money.
Yeah.
Why do acting?
Yeah.
Because you're not going to make money. It's
true.
The least reliable job to make money in.
I know.
So it's
I always say this. Who was I speaking to? I was speaking to Joel Alderson from the Filmmakers Podcast. Lovely guy, and we were both saying that, you know, no one would get. You can't. It's pointless getting into this unless you're 100%, because a lot of the time you won't get paid, or you'll get paid very little. You'd be crazy to get into this unless it's in your blood, wouldn't you?
That's it. That is it. Exactly. It's like, unless there is some burning desire that like you have to do this no matter what. And yeah, that's I guess what's fueled me. And I think the thing that I think puts a lot of people off, it's not that they go off acting, they go off, well, they get put off by the nature of the industry, unfortunately. Because as with every industry, like all industries are this way, that if you are more privileged, if you have grown up with more money, etc., you're gonna find your way more more easily than like people who've grown up more like on the kind of lower end of the scale.
Yeah.
And the difference being that acting is a lot harder to do it in, a lot harder to get into, and it's a more saturated market. So the people that end up getting there, especially because of, you know, who their families are, or, you know, how much money they have, they stand out a lot more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And there's, you know,
I do agree. I totally agree with you. I think it's getting better. I think there's more out there for people, but it's still not good enough. And I think back to, you know, when I first left school, I just went straight into work. I needed money. We were a one-parent family. I just wanted to work, go out at the weekends, enjoy myself. Now, if there'd been options where I didn't have to work and I could have studied, or, you know, done some kind of courses, it was very difficult back then. I think it is better now, but there'll always be that divide, which is a bit of a shame, because regardless of background, who you are, what you are, talent, you know, if you're talented, you're talented. And I think it's a shame when someone who's very talented but poor doesn't manage to make it. I think that's such a waste, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's like my little brother, for instance, he wanted to go to film school after AS levels, and there was no way my parents were affording 16 grand a year.
Oh, yeah,
so, you know, he decided he was going to go a different way, and he wanted to go, he you know, just, he wanted to live in a way that was comfortable, you know. So he's decided he you know, he went off and learned to be a sparky, and he's doing really well for himself. And he's really got into barbecuing lately. Like, it's like not even like on a little scale. He's like, I think he's gone through like 4 or 5 different barbecues and smokers now.
Oh my God.
Like a couple of years. And he's like, he's an ambassador for a brand as well now, and they've sent him a bunch of free stuff, which is really cool.
He should watch. There's a series on Netflix called The Best Barbecuer or something. You ever seen it?
I've seen a few things like that. Yeah.
So. Jesus, the meat's like the steaks like that, and they're smoking it and doing everything. It's crazy.
You watch it and you're just like, I'm so hungry.
Yeah, and then you go Sainsbury's and buy a steak about that big for about £8. You think, what?
Yeah. Anyway, absolutely no fat on it. Like,
but yeah, that is interesting what you say. But what I would say as well, because you mentioned about your brother wanting to go to film school, one thing I would say to people is there's a lot of forums and Facebook groups and things like that where you can get involved with short films, student films. You know, we've all got.
I think there is now.
Yeah, now, yeah.
There was.
Yeah, that's it.
We're talking a good 15 years ago now.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. And it's like myself, you know, I've got a day job. I'll do filmmaking because it's a hobby. I enjoy it. I'm not making anything out of it really, but I enjoy it. And I suppose that's the key, isn't it? Is as long as you enjoy it. It's when you start hating it or not enjoying it, that's when you're gonna be like, ooh.
Yeah, that's it. That's absolutely it. And I think there's a lot that can get caught up in the mix. And I think that as long as in this industry, as long as we all kind of like respect each other and respect each other's space and right to just enjoy it, and, you know, treat each other with respect within the job as well. You know, when you're on set, you know, everyone treating each other as equals. You know, I think the one thing that really pisses me off is when I get on set and I see, you know, actors who won't talk to the crew.
Oh God.
Why? The crew are some of the best people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now that brings us nicely on to how we met. So I totally forgot about that. So the big reason how we met is we are on a Facebook group. I think there's a few Facebook groups, filmmaking forum and things like that. But you put something on there that you were looking to, was it do voiceovers on Fiverr?
Yeah. So a lot of my kind of like thought process recently, as we were talking about, the industry and how it works and everything, is to kind of try and find some level of independence within the industry.
Yeah.
And a part of that is finding a way to separate myself from how the industry currently operates, which is that as an actor, you get an agent, and then that agent and like casting directors, essentially you're putting all the power in their hands. All the power of your career goes into other people's hands.
Yes.
And that's something that's always bothered me about the industry.
Yes.
And so part of what I've been doing lately is just to try and expand my horizons by breaking away from that slightly. Finding other routes to express myself, other routes to get work. And I'd seen a lot of people being successful on Fiverr, and it looked like a great platform where they do put sellers quite high up in their priorities. And I spoke to a few people on there as well, a few people who were doing very well.
Yeah.
And they said, yeah, one of the best things I've ever done. So I was like, yeah, cool. I'm gonna give this a shout.
I mean, the first thing you said there about agents, that rings true for me, because I had a feature film that I was touting out and trying to get people involved with a producer. And we were trying to get investment, as you do. And you go to an agent and you say, well, can we get this actor to come and audition? The first thing is say, well, what's the pay? And we say, well, we haven't got the pay because we need the actor to like the project. Then we can get the investment.
Get the funding.
Yeah, so it's a chicken and egg. And he says, well, he can't read until you know what he's going to get paid. And that really pisses me off. That is something that now I know if I have a good script and I can get it to an actor without the agent, sometimes it'll resonate. And the actor's like, I want to do this. I don't care what the pay is. But you always have that middleman, that agent.
Oh, yes.
And
I've got a friend who's with quite a high-powered agent now, and they're literally not allowed to take on anything that doesn't come through the agent. Yeah. Like if I was to approach him now and say, look, I've got this short film I'm doing, he'd be like, oh, mate, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Which
is great for some people, Ronaldo in football. Oh, no, wait, there his agent got done for tax or something. But anyway.
Fassbender, people like that.
Yeah. So, it's great for some people, but for people that are trying to make it or on smaller projects, like you say, it can be a real hindrance sometimes. So you went on Fiverr. You said, was it you were going to do voiceover work?
Yeah, like I've done voiceover work for a while. Like I've done smaller adverts and things, just like internet bits and jobbies. And I had a couple of big jobs on AAA games as well. And it's something I've always done. It's something I've always experimented with. And like having done musical theatre, I'm very, very knowledgeable about how to use my voice.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's something I wanted to get more into.
Yeah, and like you say, Fiverr is reputable. So there is some crap on there. People just trying to sell stuff, of course, that are not so good as others, but it gets rated, and there are some very good services. I've used a few, so it's reputable. You're trying to make a bit of extra cash, trying to use your talent. And I think, but you were saying, did you say, the rates will be low or something like that? What was it? I can't remember.
It was a case of, so the way that voiceover works on Fiverr is because normally you have a basic studio fee, which is essentially your time. You're charging for your time in a studio, and then you get a buyout, which is based on the usage. And instead on Fiverr, because you're probably not going into a studio, you're probably recording from home, which is what I do.
Yeah.
You charge by the word count.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you can add usage fees and all this kind of thing. You essentially set all of your prices. You can say, I want to charge this much per 25 words, this much per 100 words, whatever. And then depending on where the person's going to use it, you say, okay, well, that's going to cost you this much. But on the advert, because obviously you're advertising your services, you know, like anything, I don't know, you look at Argos or something, they'll say you can get an iron from 15 quid. Now, yeah, you could get an iron from 15 quid. It's going to be a shit iron, but you could get an iron for 15 quid.
You say that, you know, I've got a shit iron. It's lasted me about 20 years. But yeah.
But so they put your lowest price there, which I think at the time it was like 30 quid or something like that, $30. But that was for 25 words with no usage.
Yeah.
Now, I could record 25 words in about 5 minutes. 30 quid for 5 minutes work, you know, if someone's just doing, like, I don't know, if it's a birthday greeting or something like that, you know. And yeah, people did not like it. People.
This is where the internet roils me, and I try not to get riled. I think social media is great when you use it the right way. So basically, you put that on saying, you know, this is what I want to do. What's your thoughts? You know, to a nice filmmaking group, and then you got a barrage of abuse with a bunch of arseholes. I hope they don't watch this podcast because they ain't going to be hanged. Slagging you off, saying you're selling yourself cheap. You shouldn't be doing stuff for free. You should be doing stuff for a cheap price. You're hindering the industry, and that roils me. And the reason that roils me is because everyone, if you've been in this business, if you are lucky enough to be employed all the time and paid a lot of money, you are the small 1%. The majority of us are struggling day to day. We're fighting our way through it because it's our love and our passion, which we've talked about. Now, when I've done short films and things like that, people have worked for me for free. Now, they hate hearing that, but the reality is, people start somewhere, and no one's forcing anyone to work for free. They come if they like the project, and you say, "Look, if we do make any money, I'll share that out." That's up to them. If they don't want to, but what these people are saying, that ruins the market, and that pisses me off because,
like my little Fiverr account.
Yeah, a lot of top.
Sorry, can you give me 2 seconds because I've just got to email my employer just because I'm going to be a bit late back to work. But
sorry, go, go.
Yeah, I've just literally got to send them a quick.
I'll edit it. Sorry, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, no, it's only because you said you were going to edit it anyway. So
yeah, no, that's fine. All right.
Literally just going to send them an email on here.
Are you all right for time?
Yes, absolutely. They're really, really cool about it. It's just like a work from home gig. It's just I just got to let them know.
Yeah, no problem. There's me ranting.
It's fine.
I'll put that edit out near rant.
Cool. Sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Were we?
Anyway, so I was ranting mid-rant. So the reality is, a lot of the top actors, you know, I've seen interviews where they've started with nothing. They've done work for nothing because they
We've all been there.
Yeah, they love the project. They believe in the project. If they don't want to get involved, and I think on that group, what annoyed me is you had a lot of people saying you shouldn't work for nothing, you know. But if you speak to in industry professionals that have done well and had a long career, they'll all say, "Oh, I did this project for free. I did this for hardly anything," because they believe in the project, not because it's going to saturate the market. You're not going to saturate the market. Flood the market, because you know the good stuff will come up to the top. The people that are struggling will still be making stuff and trying. The worst thing imagine if you say to a young budding actor, "Don't do anything for free. Don't do anything for free." And then in 10 years' time, you go, "What happened to your acting career?" "Oh, I didn't do it in the end because I never got paid." What good's that? And the relationship, if someone acts in my film and we have a great relationship and he makes it or I make it, what do we do when we want another reliable actor or a good director that I get on with? You say, "Oh, that's what you do.
The industry is full of examples like that.
Yeah.
You know, Danny Boyle with Ewan McGregor and people like that. You know,
Cruise as well.
I mean, it would be wonderful if we could have an industry where the second you get out of drama school, the second you get out of uni, whatever, you're getting paid gigs.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's not the reality.
No.
It's not the reality of the industry. You have to do student films where you either get paid nothing or you get paid bugger all, and you put up with students. You know, which as much as they try, bless them, you know, they're not experienced, and you know, you're sat there for most of the time just while they're trying to figure stuff out. I think, like, I respected a lot of the comments on that, the ones that were saying, you know, you shouldn't sell yourself short, and we're actually showing some kindness about it and trying to impart some knowledge and everything. That I respect, because it's a person who's genuinely, like, really trying to say, you know, like, oh, you know, here's how I did it, here's my experience and everything like that. And that's cool, because you know, I'm not super experienced with the voiceover industry. I've never claimed to know everything about any part of the acting industry, but it's the manner in which you address people. And I mean, it's been a problem since the dawn of, like, since human communication was possible, beyond face-to-face communication. You know, if you go back in time, you know, if you go back into like the 50s or whatever, you see letters to newspapers where, you know, people are ranting and raving about someone or another, you know, or journalists who feel free to criticize people that they never knew, you know, because they'll never have to suffer a consequence for what they say. And I think the internet has just, like, expanded that possibility of people being able to say something without a consequence. You know, because the way in which people were speaking to me in that forum, you would never speak to someone like that in person.
No, of course you wouldn't.
I mean, half the people probably wouldn't have even said anything about it.
They're just keyboard warriors. They've not made it in the industry, or they're jealous of what you're doing, and they'll never make it in the industry, because, you know as well as I do, this industry works on relationships. And if you're an arsehole, you ain't going to last 2 minutes. It's as simple as that, isn't it?
It sounded like a couple of them were doing fairly well for themselves, and good on them. But at the end of the day, you know, they have their way of doing things, and I've got the way that I want to try and do my thing. And I think it was a lot of it was probably their frustration at what has been happening in the industry for a very long time, which is that rates are going down. Now, that's not my fault. That's not any other actor's fault. Actors are taking jobs because they have to take the job, because they need to pay the bills, because they want to take the jobs. And as you say, you know, what happens if you don't take any jobs? Well, you don't act. You know, if you sit there waiting for Martin Scorsese to offer you $1 million to come and be in his Netflix movie, well, that's not going to happen, because you never took any of the low-paying jobs that were going to get you notoriety.
And don't get me wrong, Johnny, I totally understand that. And in a lot of what other industry, you know, in another industry, if you were a mechanic and someone says, I'm not going to pay you to fix my car, you'd say no chance. So, but you can't relate this industry to that. This is so, you can't, you just cannot. This is people's passions, hopes and dreams. It's in your blood. This is people sleep and dream about it and can't live without it. And that's the difference. And there'll always be a difference. You can't relate it to an industry like that, can you?
Well, I would say that there is somewhat of a difference. There is that difference. I think the difference is it's a saturated market for a start. And I think another big difference is that the power is in the employer's hands. Now, when you go to a mechanic, essentially you're the employer. You're employing them to fix your car. The difference is that you need your car fixed. And they know that you need your car fixed.
Exactly.
When a producer or a director comes to an actor and says, "Oh, do you want to be in this?" They don't necessarily need you, unless you're Michael Fassbender or Tom Hiddleston or something like that. You know, that's when you become the mechanic, is because you have a certain level of notoriety that you are bringing to that project. But if you're, you know, Johnny Neale or Joe Bloggs from down the street, who maybe someone's seen you in a Halifax advert or something, that the power is not in your hands. So, and I think like I said, the issue I think was at hand was not that I was creating a Fiverr page, that I was charging so much and so forth. The issue was that there has been a shift in the balance of the industry that's been happening for a while now, that they were not happy about, and they were taking the opportunity to air that frustration.
Yeah.
Which is not the right way to do it. But at the end of the day, you know, you catch someone on a bad day, they're an asshole. Any other day, they might have
You're
been
very forgiving, Johnny. You're very forgiving. Not like me.
You know what? If you hang on to it, mate, it'll keep you up at night. You know what I mean? Like,
no, but no. Look, I do agree, and I do understand how frustrating it is for a creative. Luckily, you know, I've got another job. I've got things to fall back on. Some people haven't, so I do understand, and I am empathetic to that. It's just, I felt that you were doing your best. You're trying to make a bit of extra cash, and some people were just slaughtering you for no reason.
And I really appreciated the comments from people like yourself who were like kind of
yeah,
because I won't make any bones about it. You know, it did get to me because at the end of the day, as tribal beings, we seek the
approval.
Thank you. The approval of people within our purview, and you know, to have that kind of toxicity, you know, whether it's meant in a good way or a bad way, it's the manner in which you present it. You know, because there were some people on there, like I had a friend who commented on it who was saying a similar thing to them, but the manner in which she was saying it
exactly
was very like, I want to help you. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine, because I will happily take advice. But if you want to come on and call me this, that, and the other, and, you know, say, oh, you know, call me unprofessional or whatever. You can call me unprofessional, love, but at the end of the day, I've been paid for what I do. I know I'm very good at what I do.
Unprofessional is nothing. Someone called me a wankstein the other day, so don't worry about it.
I'd rather be. I'll tell you what. I'd rather be called a wankstein than unprofessional.
Oh, cheers. So anyway, that's rant over. Now, what's for the future then, Johnny? Where are we? Because obviously we've had COVID. I don't know. Have you been working through COVID and stuff like that? Where are we going for the future? Future hopes.
I've had a few jobs through COVID. And unfortunately, one job came to an end because of COVID.
Yeah.
I was out in Armenia shooting a TV series for America when it happened, and we literally had to sprint home through Russia. Which
nightmare.
Was fun. And I had like a small Amazon TV series that I did, which that should be coming out soon.
Okay.
For the moment, I'm preparing for a feature film. I'm not sure when it's happening because of everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, apart from that, I've got, like, as I mentioned earlier, I've got a YouTube channel that me and a friend are working on, which is again part of trying to break away from the current the way the industry works at present. We want to be able to make our own films and make our own content. The ultimate aim of it is like being to be able to set up our own film studio and, you know, just make our own stuff and fund our own stuff and get one of the things we've spoken about is, like, if we were to like get it big enough, is that we want to fund films that for people who otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to get their films funded.
Brilliant.
At the moment, it's just starting off as comment videos, so, you know, we'll see. But
everything starts somewhere, and I think a lot more people are doing that now. I mean, that's what I did with my feature. I said, "Fuck it, I'm going to make it," and I just did it and pulled everything together and did it myself. Because trying to rely on studios and waiting on investments can be such a ball ache in this industry. It just can go on.
Kevin Smith. I mean, Kevin Smith put together 16. Well, he maxed out a bunch of credit cards and made Clerks. You know, which gave him a career.
Yeah, definitely. Now, if you knew your young self or someone coming up into the industry, what sort of advice do you think you'd give them, Johnny?
Run.
Don't do it.
No, I would say learn as much as you can. Never turn down a learning opportunity, essentially, I think would be the biggest thing. And whenever you're on set, talk to the people who are more experienced than you, learn from them. and network as much as you can, because that is essentially the key. It is all about who you know. You could be the best actor in the world. If you don't know the right people, no one's going to care.
Yeah, it's a great bit of advice. And I always ask my guests for a favourite, so it can be a book or a film or anything like that, maybe something that's helped you along or something that inspires you. What's that? What would you say?
Oh, God. You asked me my favourite film. I could go on for ages.
Just give us one of the list.
One of the list. The first one that jumps to the mind, to be honest, is Matrix.
Oh, yeah.
Matrix. Absolutely. Like, to me, that was... I mean, it was a groundbreaking film. It brought Hong Kong cinema to the West.
Yeah.
And it's everything I love. It's philosophy, it's martial arts, it's good acting, it's insane cinematography. I mean, there was so much about that movie that revolutionized how we do things today. Yeah. And has never been replicated in the same way since.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you've got an incredible movie when other movies are branding their film like yours. How many movies back then came out with people in long leather jackets doing martial arts?
Are you looking forward to the remake? Well, not remake, the next chapter.
Looking forward to. But I'm holding my breath. Because I wasn't the biggest fan of like the second and third parts, especially the way it like ended and everything like that. I think there was something in the original that was captured that those two movies failed to capture, and I'm interested to see where they take it. But for me, it feels like one of those things. It feels kind of like the Breaking Bad movie to me.
Yeah,
where the Breaking Bad movie was good. It was a good movie, but it was ultimately unnecessary.
Yeah.
And unless I'm interested to see how this turns out, because at the moment that's the way I'm thinking of it, is that it could be a good movie, but it feels unnecessary.
Money talks, doesn't it? And whether it's any good or not, it's going to make a 100%. Shitload of money.
Oh yeah. But to be honest, the more we see people like Keanu Reeves on our screens, the better, because he's a wonderful human being.
Oh yeah, it's great. I hate him.
It's just
so annoying.
Nice. Go away.
So annoying.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, if you want to see a good Keanu Reeves movie, watch. Oh God, that movie's forgotten. I've forgotten that movie now. He was in a rom-com on Netflix. I can't remember the name of it now, but it's absolutely hilarious.
Oh,
I'm going to quickly Google it while you're on, if that's all right.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's fine. I'm trying to think if I've seen it. Not Lakeout. That was a romantic that weren't a comedy, was it? That was a romantic.
No, that was a romantic movie.
Trying to think. Romantic comedy, which is unlike him, to be fair, which is something a bit different.
Always Be My Maybe. That's it.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that. Is it good?
It's hilarious, and he has a cameo in it that is just mind-blowingly funny.
Oh,
it's him being the extreme Keanu Reeves.
Oh, is it?
And it's just really funny.
I'll watch that tonight. Then I like getting a recommendation that I haven't watched.
Yeah.
Now, if people want to get hold of you, Johnny, or see where your work is and things like that, what are your social media handles?
So you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Mr. Johnny Neale, spelled JOHNNYNEAL. You can also find my new YouTube channel, Infamous Paupers, at Infamous Paupers on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Yeah.
I'll put links when I put the show. I'll put links out anyway in the show notes. Well, look, Johnny, it's been an absolute pleasure to have a good old rant with you. And
I love a good rant.
And I can't wait to see what happens next, mate. I really hope it works out for you.
I appreciate it, mate.
Just keep plugging away, and if anyone gives you any shit on social media, let me know. I'll find.
Oh, I will.
I will back you 100%.
And hopefully we get to work together someday.
Definitely, mate. That'd be awesome.
I like working with nice people.
Too right. All right then, mate. Right, I'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon.
Look after yourself. So that's it. Massive thanks again to Johnny Neale for joining me today, and also to you for listening. Make sure you follow the podcast, because over the coming months, there are going to be some more extraordinary interviews. The podcast streamed on all the usual platforms, iTunes and Spotify, so please leave a rating on there and subscribe. And to keep up to date on social media, just put on Facebook is My Way of Thinking Podcast, and Instagram is MWOT Podcast. Every week I put the whole conversation on YouTube as well. Again, My Way of Thinking Podcast. And finally, if you want to get in touch or you think you'd be a great guest, email me, mwotpodcast@aol.com. Okay, thanks ever so much for listening today. Take care. God bless.
Bye.